Hi everyone, this is Penguin Trades. This is a review for the ES and NQ futures. We're going to start off on the ES here and then hop over to the NQ after. So starting off here, this is our overnight high, this is our overnight low. These are our key levels for the day. And so as this measured move was met right here, price had a very sharp push off of it, clear reversal. The reversal obviously doesn't last very long here, but very clear, very sharp, and then it continues with this wider uptrend. It does show, though, that these measured moves are very important levels that you have to understand. You have to keep tabs on them. And so, when you push lower here, this is a great place to get a reversal pattern if this trend line didn't hold. But in this case here, it does end up holding, pushes on up here, starts getting above the EMA, so you have to switch gears and stay with what's going on. If price is pushing up, you have to stay with this trend right here. You can't just go short directly into it just because you're retesting up here. The market's switching gears at this point. And so we're continuing up here. And now when we break out of the overnight high, you don't want to just buy the breakout because you're getting a bullish bar. It could easily fade back in. When price breaks out of overnight levels and ranges, they generally attempt to fade back down. And so you don't want to just buy right here because you're getting a green bar. You want to wait for 2 attempts to fade so you can get long on the failure. So second entries, they don't just form out of nowhere. They form from price attempting new highs, price attempting to fade, price attempting to reach magnets. But they don't just form, for the sake of forming a two-legged move. They form from price attempting to reach other structures, breaking out, attempting new highs, all sorts of different things. And when you break out of a major key level like this, like an overnight level, price is likely to attempt to fade. So if you wait for 2 attempts to fade, then you can get in on the failure, because after 2 attempts, that's generally when people give up. That's how second entries form. And so in this case here, we only get 1 attempt to fade back in. And even though it's off, you're inside it, you're going up here with this uptrend right here. It doesn't hold perfectly, but that's not the point. It's just 1 attempt to fade, which means that even if you were holding perfectly off this trend line right here, it could still tick higher and push lower, because it's not just this trend line that you have to consider. And even though it's off of this support level right here, the overnight high, it's also basically acts like a range, so price could still fade back in. So that's why I don't like going long there. But anyway, we push on up here, we make this double top, so the count resets. We want to see 2 attempts to fade before buying again. Now, there's not enough room from here to get 2 clear legs, so what I'd like to see is a sharper push up with more room to get 2 attempts to fade to get in on the failure. But we just don't get that here. Instead, what happens is we fade back in, so at this point we have a successful fade. We've pushed into the overnight high, and now that's when we get a clear break from this uptrend. So this fade is the break from this uptrend. So now we have uptrend, break, and now just like I was explaining how we want to see 2 attempts to fade to get in on the failure, since we've already faded at this point, we need to see 2 attempts at a new high for this uptrend. So uptrend, break, first attempt higher, second attempt higher, failure. So from the top here, we have first entry long, second entry long, failure. So these, second entries, failed second entries, they don't just form out of nowhere. In this case here, this formed due to this uptrend making 2 attempts to play out. That ends up getting held down by the EMA. And so that's why I like this trade right here. There is some support that's forming, but you don't have to push the target out very far. And also, it's a very common reversal area. Coming off the overnight high, when you come off one side, you can expect price to reach the other side. And so considering we got a good reversal pattern with confluence from this uptrend, this is a great place to get a short. So anyway, we push on lower here, and then notice that we get this first entry short, second entry short. So a second entry right here, but since we've pushed above and it's kind of holding back above this low right here, I don't want to re-enter into that because we pushed through it here, but as soon as we had this spike down and made that leg down, price is already pushing back above and holding back above, so I wouldn't want to enter directly into it again. It does end up pushing on lower here, but it does struggle for a bit, so it's just not the most ideal entry. You would want to see a larger push lower, ideally not reaching the measured move yet, but a little bit more of a push lower so you can have 2 clear legs that ends up closing below. But we just don't get that here. So anyway, we push on lower here. We go past that measured move. It starts to get a little bit choppy as we reach it, but it continues on lower. And we're going into this wider downtrend. So we have this downtrend, we have this first entry that doesn't quite reach the other side, so nothing to take there, it doesn't reach the other side, plus it's just a first entry, so just really nothing. We continue on lower here, and then we break out of the overnight low, and we also overshoot this downtrend right here. So These are the lows. When you break out of the lows of a downtrend, that's considered an overshoot. Overshoots indicate oversold in the case of a downtrend, and in the case of an uptrend, overbought. I don't have any indicators on my chart other than this 21 EMA, so I don't have an RSI that I don't care about the 3070 levels telling me overbought, oversold. I just like to see overshoots, because when you have an overshoot, you know that price is oversold. Overshoots commonly lead to breaks. They commonly lead to very sharp spikes in the opposite direction. It's even common to push into a reversal pattern from an overshoot, and you can look to take them so long as you have room to the other side of the channel, especially at areas like this where you've broken out and you can expect price to fade back into the overnight. But in this case here, we don't get a clear reversal. You can kind of see price does form one starting from this low here. First entry short, second entry short, failure. But that's by no means a clear reversal pattern. It's not even getting above the EMA. So nothing there, but we push on up here. Notice that we have, it gets a little bit choppy after that spike up. It really just starts going sideways. I adjusted this range a bit. At first we had it here, and then as price, kept piercing through, we eventually, there we go. We eventually raised it up a bit. But here, notice that we have these two big legs here. So after that overshoot, even though it's a little bit choppy and it can be difficult to see, you can see that there's two legs up there retesting the overnight low, and then as soon as price retests it, we immediately start pushing lower. We push into another failed second entry. Again, not an ideal one, not one that I thought was worth entering. But from here, we have first entry long, second entry long, failure, and that pushes us down into this two-legged move here. And then right at that measured move, price makes two attempts to reverse, which ends up not successful. But as you can see, you do still get that two-legged move before price pushes on down here. So nothing on the way down here. We had the support stacking up. You don't want to enter directly into that. So, it can be unfortunate seeing tempting things like a failed second entry and not being able to take it. But, if it doesn't set up perfectly, then it's not worth taking it. If you get a second entry that's right into support, it can be tempting because you get that big bearish bar, but it's right into support. So you have to consider sometimes it will hold, sometimes it might push on through, like in this case here, but you can't be sure that it's going to push on through, so you can't take it. So anyway, we push on lower here. From here, we push into a two-legged move before reversing higher. Again, since we're pushing back into the overnight low, a common reversal area, this is a great place to get a failed second entry. If we push above here, if we had just continued on up and got two legs back retesting the overnight low, that would be that's an amazing spot for a reversal pattern. And so, I would have loved to see that, but obviously, as you can see, as soon as we had this little break, it pushed up to a new high and got very choppy here, and now we're already pushing below the overnight low. So it looks like we could be getting another big leg down, possibly, from here, first leg, break, second leg, because this fade is not looking so good right now for the bulls, so we could have another leg down. And so I just want to mention this right here with this green trend line. Since we have this little break here, this downtrend has a break, it has a new low, and then it reverses. But on a bigger picture, you can still tell that this is all one leg down and that this is really the break. So you have downtrend, break, and you could expect price to attempt a new low. And considering how well this fade has gone, it very easily could be successful at making a new low. And as it pushes into that new low, that's obviously what forms the second major leg. And so anyway, I'm going to hop over to the NQ now. That's it for the ES. Only this one up here. It just really wasn't looking so good for the rest of the day on the ES. But anyway, so here we are on the NQ. So this is the overnight high. This is the overnight low. I think I might have forgot to mention it on the ES, but I started trading at 8. So, right around this area right here, just before we had this breakout. But let me hop back over here. So here on the NQ, we have these two legs up right here before pushing on lower here. This is our overnight high. Now, I just want to quickly mention before we really get into the NQ, I'll mention a lot of times how the ES and the NQ, they generally follow each other. So notice here on the NQ how starting up here, we have this push down. We went down for a long time today, and then we started going back up. And very similar on the ES. We were going down all day. At the end of the day, we started pushing back up. And then notice at the beginning, we start here at this low, push up, then it's down all day, and then back up. That's the same thing here on the NQ. We push up at the beginning, down all day, and then at the end, we start going back up. And so they do generally follow each other, but the context is obviously very different. So, sometimes people will, look at one market and take a trade on the other, which I don't think is a good idea, because even though they've generally been kind of following each other all day, look how far away the overnight low is from price right now on the NQ compared to the ES where we're already at it. So the context is very different on these two charts right now, even though generally they've been doing similar things all day. When one market's going down, the other one was going down. But overall, the context gets very different throughout the day. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that for those who trade the ES and the NQ at the same time. And so anyway, here on the NQ, got those two legs up right there, pushing down. This is a great place to get a failed second entry. Sharp push down after a two-legged move, pushing off the overnight high. Great place for a reversal pattern, but we don't form it. It just goes into this downtrend, which has a break, push to a new low, and then price makes an attempt to reverse. Notice that we have this two-legged move up here. First leg up, break, second leg up. The reason I don't like going short here is because we slightly pushed above the EMA, and then we couldn't quite make a bearish bar back below. It kind of just closed on the EMA, making a doji bar right there. So really not ideal, especially after a downtrend just played out. So that's why I don't like that short there. But it pushes on lower here, makes this triple bottom, and then pushes on up. So we just made a triple bottom. The highs aren't consistent, only these lows are. And then we push on up, make this higher low. And I have this marked right here because this is a good place to look for a short. We don't quite get one, but if this uptrend had a break, pushed up, and possibly make a second leg up to a new high, and then pushed back below and held on this trend line right here from this previous swing, then absolutely we could look for a short. But considering the triple bottom and the sharp push above, and then the hold back above the EMA, I did not think that this was a good trade right here, even when it closed below the EMA. Even if we had gotten a trigger right here, I still wouldn't have liked it, just given the overall context. Started bouncing early, getting very bullish. I would just want to see more confirmation because this range, the highs were not very consistent at all. So anyway, we push on lower here, clearly making a second leg down. We reach the overnight low, and then price finds some resistance right there. This is a common place to push up into a failed second entry, a reversal pattern, because at this point you have downtrend, break, new low at the overnight low, a common reversal area. So that's a great place to get a reversal pattern. But it ends up only having a small reaction before going a bit sideways and then finally reaching this measured move here. At the measured move, price does react, pushes back up, but quickly finds resistance at the overnight low again and continues on down. So as we continue on down here, that's when this channel becomes more clear. At first it's more like this, but then we overshoot. But since the overshoot doesn't lead to a break and it just kind of continues in that overshoot area, that's when you want to look to extend it. In this case here, it fit pretty well. And then after a push up, price immediately overshot again. So we have downtrend, overshoot. Remember, overshoots, that means oversold in the case of a downtrend. That led to a very swift break right here. So we push on up here, we break, downtrend, break. We can expect price to attempt a new low. And then look what we get here. We get 2 attempts at a new low. Now notice that this says limit order right here. That's because we don't quite get a perfect entry on this signal bar right here. So just to explain it, downtrend, break, first attempt lower, second attempt lower, met at the measured move, pushing back above. So we can look for a failure entry here, a failure to make a new low. And also from this low here, this is a failed second entry. Starting from here, we have first entry short, second entry short, failure. So this is a good looking failure entry, but you have to consider this trend line right here. We're clearly going into this channel. We have this off these major first 2 swings right here. The lows aren't consistent right here, but you still have to consider that's right into that trend line right there. And we have been down all day. This is, we're still getting a good reversal pattern, but just because you're getting a reversal pattern doesn't mean you want to enter into that resistance. So you have to consider it. And that's why this is a limit order trade. It barely came back for that limit order before pushing on higher there. But, that's, sometimes it won't come back to scoop you up. Sometimes it will. In this case here, the limit order was pretty significant. So I'm very happy that it was able to come back. But anyway, so we push on up here. We make a new high. Uptrend, 2-legged break, pushes up to a new high. At this point, the uptrend is considered played out. And then we push on lower here. Now, this green trend line that I had just moved, this was the extended trend line. And so just from that high there, we drag it off around the same area, but since price pierced through that trend line and then formed a swing, this isn't a very significant break. This could just be the channel slightly widening, and this is what I always say to do. When you get a break, you can look to extend the channel and see how it ends up holding. And so notice here, let me just get this right back to where it's supposed to be. Right off that swing right there, price holds again right here. So this uptrend is played out with a break and a new high. It's pushing back below. We're clearly in this range right here. We faded back in, and then we get this perfectly holding off those highs right there of that dotted range and off of the extended trend line. So this is a really great looking short right here, right off that trend line. And then of course, oh whoops, where did I go? And then, of course, overall, we've just been very bearish all day, so we have great context for it as well. So I really like this trade right here. That pushed us into this second leg down, so notice that we have this measured move right here, and as soon as that measured move was met, price immediately attempts to reverse higher. Ends up getting held down by that trend line right there. It ends up holding again on this retest, and then we push on lower again. Again, since we've just have these two legs down here, you definitely don't want to look to go short right here. We would need to see a more significant push down and then two legs back. This right here, a first entry after meeting a measured move, is a terrible idea to go short. And so anyway, we push on lower, we get a little bit choppy, and then we get this more significant break. So now this whole move down has a break. You can see that there's clearly a two-legged move starting from the low of the day here. So let me just draw this up. Two legs up right there, not quite measured, but even though it's not measured, you can still push into a reversal pattern. Notice that we have this downtrend that formed. So downtrend break, already pushed to a new low. So we'll see how price reacts. Price could attempt to reverse from there, just since this downtrend played out and we still have this measured move in play. So, we'll see what happens. Could go into something wider right here. Measured move is still in play. We're at this trend line. This downtrend is played out. If we push above the EMA, we can definitely get a good reversal pattern, a good failed second entry holding above. So, we'll see what happens. That's going to do it for this video. I hope it helped out in some way, and thanks for watching. I'll see y'all next time.